This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm excited to have with us Kapp-Kailea. And before we get started, let me just tell you that Conversations That Make a Difference airs every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern with live call-in video shows every first and third Tuesday of the month. I recognize that we are a little bit late, but we had a change in schedule, so here we are. I am excited to say that you can get your show online and on mobile apps, in the cars, on YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. To learn more about our full schedule, go to dreamvision7radio.com and you can see it all there. And everybody who knows my show know that I usually start with a prayer, and we would say the Serenity Prayer, because most people know that one. So they say, God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I'd also like to add that it is by God's grace that we are indeed fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And we gratefully say, Amen. So, we're about to embark in a conversation with Tina. And in this conversation, Tina's going to talk about the hidden patterns of burnout that affect women, from hustle for worth trap to the silent pressures of perfectionism. And I'm sure, because I'm already relating, I'm sure that many of you are as well. She unpacks why burnout isn't just about overwork. It's about deep disconnection from yourself, and offers a roadmap for reclaiming vitality, purpose, and joy. Let me tell you a little bit about this beautiful woman who we're about to talk to. Tina is an award-winning embodiment coach, best-selling author, and international speaker, and she helps high-achieving women reconnect with their authentic selves, breaking free from burnout and leading purposefully. With her intuitive mentorship, and personal transformation blend, Tina empowers corporate women and entrepreneurs to step into authentic and aligned leadership without sacrificing their well-being. Her best-selling book, Corporate Rewilding, A Wild Woman's Guide to Reclaiming Your Feminine Power. Love, love, love the title. She won a Global Bronze Book Award and inspires women to embrace their feminine power and live unapologetically. I love it. Tina, welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. How are you today? And you're joining us from down under. You're in New Zealand.
I am. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on your show because I think it's important to have those conversations that matter to others. And yes, I'm coming from the future. So it is now Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. where I am.
Yeah, and it's still Tuesday here, and we're just embarking on 5 p.m. on this side of the globe. So I am excited to be with you today. And thanks for getting up early. I know you even had things to do before this, so I appreciate you. You have a powerful story. We started talking a little bit before we went on air. So can you take us back to the moment that you knew enough was enough? Enough is enough. How many women do not get to that point over and over again and do nothing about it? Tell us your story on how enough was enough.
I would love to. My enough was enough moment actually led, I guess, years of living outside of myself. And I had a moment where I sadly miscarried for the 5th time, and I took a week off. And I was the general manager of an international publishing and media house. And I was trying to hold things together. And when I returned to the office, I remember the day vividly. I was sitting in my class corner office, the door was ajar, and I heard the boss of the company speak to the HR person, and I heard him say in a really sarcastic voice, well, the last time that happened, she didn't take as much time off. So I sat there like someone had punched me in the gut, and I realized something snapped inside me. I go, no, no more. And I sat for a minute, closed my computer down, and asked reception and said, I won't be back today. And then I took a step and got an employment lawyer to help me with the situation, because this was the tip of the iceberg. Years of really being bullied and being not in a good position with the way I was treated. And that was when I knew I couldn't carry on. Regardless of the mortgage and everything else that I was trying to hold on to, I couldn't carry on. And that was the best decision I ever made, and one that spiraled me on this path of making a difference for others by speaking out about my experience.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you are, because I think that a lot of people, women especially, do not want to expose their vulnerability, if you will. But you go after this unapologetically. And I think that's a strong woman is a great example for women who are in the position that you were in. Sadly, 5 miscarriages, I cannot even imagine. So I'm just floored that that you had to withstand some of what this guy was dishing out to you while you were going through such a horrific experience, not once, but for the 5th time. And I think that you stand for all of those who can't stand for themselves by taking a step forward, and it makes a difference to somebody else. I often say that I believe it's really important for us to share our stories, because it gives the next person who's experienced the same thing that we've experienced a hand up to be able to step out of the box and take control of their lives. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. Being vulnerable was not something that was modeled to me when I was growing up. And I think we've been told that to be in a corporate world and high up the food chain, so to speak, that the higher you get to the top, the thinner the air. We all know that saying. And we don't have to be hard-nosed. We don't have to elbow our way. We need to be vulnerable, because as women, we are nurturers. We actually naturally care. And we take care of everybody in our world. And I come back to that later when we talk about burnout. But in corporate, I've seen men go out for long lunches and they don't care whether it's 10 minutes late before they turn to the office. Women amongst themselves, often on the same floor, they don't communicate. They compete with one another, when all we crave is sisterhood and compassion. And when the first woman goes, we have got an issue with wanting to be even stronger. And I think that is really detrimental to our well-being. And I'm glad that I can be a permission slip for others to be able to.
Yeah. So with your experience and what you just shared, how does your particular experience, how does it teach you about, the hidden causes of burnout? Because I would think that burnout simply comes just from overworking, but there's a lot more to it than that, especially for women. What do you think is the hidden cause of burnout that you can tell us about today?
I like that question, because it is absolutely something we hold on the inside. I think it goes down, comes down to not feeling good enough deep on the inside. And that is something I think every woman can relate to, especially in this day and age where we have modeled to us that we have to be this, that, there's social media and all those things. For me, that little girl that felt like she had to prove herself was why my narcissistic bullying boss had such an easy time with me. And it pains me to admit today that I didn't speak up. I felt like that was my lot, and if I wanted to be in that senior executive position, I had to suck it up and carry on. And that's when we lose track of ourselves. We lose ourselves. And I like to bring women back to their essence, because in my deepest, darkest parts, I didn't want to show feelings. I didn't want to show emotion. I felt like I had to be the ice queen. And the beautiful woman who written the foreword for my book, she was actually working in the same company at the same time. And being able to digest that and make peace with that part of my journey was a big catalyst for me to move on.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me, we're having a little bit of audio issue here, so we're getting a little bit of feedback. Are we good?
Is that feedback better?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I do recognize that having somebody else, you said somebody who is a powerful woman like yourself, wrote your foreword in your book, and gave you, from what I heard with the issue with the audio, I'm sorry, what I heard was that it was like a shining light to you, that somebody else could speak into what it was that you were feeling and give you some information that could potentially move you through it. And as you just said, it's more than exhaustion. Burnout is more than exhaustion, and we actively participate in this, and it's disconnection. Can you explain a little bit more about that? We are disconnected. I understand we get disconnected from ourselves, and I'll be the first to tell you that I do this all the time.
I think it comes from a place of not looking after ourselves. Being in stillness, your body wants to communicate with you. And I work a lot with masculine and feminine energy and not the genders. It's who we are. As women in a corporate environment in particular, we try and be man in a man's world. And our body is designed intrinsically female. So we have hormonal changes, we've got ups and downs in our cycle, and we're going and pushing against that. And it doesn't allow our body to actually be still enough for us to tell us that something is completely out of order. So I had adrenal fatigue, and that's a sneaking thing that sort of creeps up. I then had anxiety, I had depression, and I didn't realize it. And my cortisol levels in my body, my stress levels were so high that my body failed me. It did not deem a pregnancy to be carried through the full term. That was a very hard pill to swallow. But that was the moment I realized that I was living out of alignment. And I had to come back to who I am. And we as women perpetuate that everywhere without knowing that that's what's happening. And I've written a chapter that was called I Was So Far Up My Yang, I Had No Yin. So having no feminine energy is detrimental, because that means that we're not supposed to be on the go all the time. It's not do performing and all that. So it's kind of opposite of what we're doing on a daily basis. And when I take women back, we look a lot at what you hold on the inside. What are your belief system? Do you feel like, for me, it was, I can't possibly not do anything, just sit and, I don't know, read a book in the sun because I'm meant to be doing something, because time was precious. So in my mind, I was like, oh, that's lazy. And you know, that me time, especially as mums and being constantly looking after everybody else around us, it is actually not a feminine energy, even though mother and motherhood is viewed as the ultimate feminine trait. But because we're constantly doing, the body just doesn't get through to our mind, and we push it down and just carry on, think it's normal. So that's what I like to change in your mindset first. And then you can go, oh, where am I perpetuating this burnout? Where am I putting myself into that hot wash cycle in my corporate job daily, day in, day out? And then it carries on at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit into the difference between, just for people who just have not heard these terms before, maybe you can clarify the difference between masculine and feminine energy, along with some of the things that you talk about, the danger of having high cortisol levels and what that does to your body. I know that a lot of people, like myself, who seem to, I think I'm able to handle all of the, the pressure of getting things done and so forth and so on, and paying attention to the business and paying attention to the needs of other people. I think that we don't realize what we're doing to ourselves and where we are not stepping into our feminine energy. So if you could explain that for the listeners, and also the dangers of constantly going and those cortisol levels going woo through the ceiling. Besides the horrific experience of having a miscarriage, how does it affect people in the day to day?
Yeah. So masculine and feminine energy is really simple. If you think of a landscape, your masculine energy is usually what gives something structure. It's also when you do a lot of things. So you have masculine energy. It means that you've got quite a rigid routine. You live into a structure that is maybe often set by others for you. Could be family, can be work, could be all of the above. And it means you're doing things. You're being productive. While as the feminine energy in that riverbed is the water that flows into that structure. And when it's balanced, it works in beautiful harmony. But how many of you actually take time to be creative, to dance, to flow without an outcome, without a specific goal, just being, whether it's reading a book, walking in nature? That's the best way I can like that to it. So it's completely opposite of the scale. Feminine doesn't have an outcome or a goal. And I think when we're in our flow, think back to your childhood when you do something you really enjoy. It could be drawing, could be crafting, and you completely lose track of time because there's no outcome. And you're just completely in your zone where you're just doing your thing and you're really content and happy. That's a point of when you say, I'm in my feminine flow. And how many of us do that on a daily basis? It does take effort, and it does take a bit of really brutal honesty to go, where am I letting myself down, and where am I playing the martyr, the good girl? Where am I saying yes when my body actually says no? Like, I don't know, someone says, let's go and go out on Friday night. We're going to go and have a meal, and then we'll maybe go dancing or have a drink. And your body just wants to go, oh no, I just want to sit at home, be quiet. And you do it anyway because you think you're letting someone down. And then you're really tired, you're cranky, you can't quite get into it. And then you come home, you realize, oh, I really didn't want to. So whenever we go against what we really want, that's when you're actually out of alignment and you're not coming back to things. And you need boundaries and self-value beyond an affirmation of self-love to actually reclaim some of those things that are sacred to you, that you really need for you to be in alignment. Because when you are in constant stress, your whole body function is getting affected. And yes, men do suffer from burnout as well, but their hormones are completely different.
Yeah.
For me, the cortisol really upsets your entire hormone balance. And it happens throughout motherhood. And for those of you who have children, you know, your hormones crash after you give birth and everything takes time to regulate. Cortisol pretty much mutes this whole wisdom that your body holds and really tampers with it. And then menopause, which is what I've just gone through, there's another wave of when you really need to change some things, because if you're under stress, your body thinks there's a tiger jumping out of the hedge any minute, or it can be that ping of your inbox or social media notifications. It goes. So we've made the tiger from the old days in our nervous system the modern day tiger, and it's constant. And even though we don't recognize it, these constant, I've got to go do this, got to do this, we're in this fight or flight, and that is detrimental to our health. We cannot relax. Sleep gets affected by it. That anxiety, I used to wake up in a panic mode at 4 o'clock in the morning going, what is he going to do to me today? And I have to have this meeting with him, and I need to do this report. So we're not actively looking after our mental well-being, and that's when burnout sneaks in.
Not only that, from what you just said, I think that we take ourselves out of the present moment. Like, where is there room in what you just described for us to be able to just like be in that moment, whatever it looks like, even if it involves work, instead of having all of this stress coming at us and absorbing it all. You know, it's interesting, setting boundaries and saying no. I'm one of those people who would say, somebody would ask me, can you do this? Okay, I can do that. Can you do this? Okay, I can do that. Can you go here? Okay, I can do that. Next thing you know, I'm running around like a lunatic. Well, my brother-in-law saw this happening with me, and he said to me, Teresa, you have to learn how to say no. I'm like, okay. So I said no to a couple of things. But then he asked me to do something. I got to take my father to the doctor. Can you pick Bobby up from school? My nephew was young at the time. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And he slammed his hand down on the desk and he said, no, you have to say no. So he would test me with little things that he would ask me to do to see if I was going to follow through on actually taking care of myself in terms of spreading myself too thin with activity that I just wasn't part of the equation. I was gone off and doing. I wasn't a human being. I was a human doing.
That's a very good analogy, human doing. The doing is undoing us.
Mm-hmm. The doing is undoing us. Oh, my word. I'm writing that down. The doing is undoing us. You just brought that home for me, sister. You just brought that home.
Boundaries is important because we're not taught how to say no with conviction, because from our formative years, and it was no different for me, mm-hmm. I was always a wild child off doing this, and then eventually all these layers of what society expects you to be as a girl, then as a teenager and a young woman, mm-hmm. we take this on as gospel, and we lose our wild, which is why I use rewilding, which means you're returning something to its natural state. So that's why that time frame from when we're born to when we're about 7, we take on all these different stories and observations, and no one actually takes time to go, is that actually me? Is that what I really want to be or want to do with my life? And often dad was a lawyer and granddad was a lawyer, so you're going to law school. But is that really what you wanted to do? I had a client who was very successful, and she said, actually, I wanted to do equine therapy. But I was told, well, there's no money in that. Do a proper thing and you always be looked after in life. Yeah. But this 80-hour a week and then court and this and that, is that really it? And she realized to go, wow, I have enough abundance and finances are not an issue. I can actually stop.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something different because I can. And we think, especially when we're in our 50s, that we've sacrificed too much, we've come too far to possibly change the game. And this is where I really like to challenge women and be a little bit of the uncomfortable little trigger on the shoulder to go, but I can read you. I know that you're not happy deep down. What stops you? Have you given yourself permission to ask yourself those hard questions?
Yeah. That's a great place to stop right now because we have to go to our first break. Awesome conversation happening here with Kapp-Kailea. And we are going to be back in just a minute to continue on because the wisdom this woman has has got my ears perked up and my handwriting notes like I usually do when the conversation is great. Thanks for making a difference with us today, Tina, and we'll be right back.
Are you one of the many people who said, someday I'll write a book, but don't know how to get started? Many wannabe authors have begun with the same question and are now published by Authentic Endeavors Publishing, a multi-imprint hybrid publishing company. Whether you're writing an autobiography, a memoir, a kingdom book, a children's book, a business book, or an anthology, we have a place for you. Visit www.AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com for more information or to set up a 20-minute consultation. Your title of published author is within reach. Born Able exists to highlight and normalize the humanity, worth, and abilities of infants and children born with complex medical conditions. We write, illustrate, and publish books for these children and have featured over 1,000 children throughout the world. Our videos and posts have been viewed over 100 million times on social media as we strive to showcase these amazingly abled kids and fight relentlessly for equal medical care, regardless of diagnosis. All proceeds from Born Able books go directly to the Born Able Foundation. To nominate a special kid to be featured in a Born Able book, go to www.bornable.org to learn more.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back with Tina Kapp-Kailea. I hope I've been saying that right.
Yes, you have.
She is the author of the Corporate Rewilding, a wild woman's guide to reclaiming your feminine power. Before we went to break, you used that term rewilding, and you said about returning to our natural state. How many people do you think are walking around here not knowing who the heck they are?
I think quite a few, because we've kind of silenced that voice, that wild energy that we used to have. And as children, we don't really take on too many things when we first enter this world, and we can be very creative. We have traits that we're born with. And I think finding our purpose in life has a lot to do with coming back to our younger days, because for me, I was very creative. I was also very loud, outspoken, riding horses in the forest, not just the ladylike stuff. And I think when you then grow older, you out of the sudden open your eyes a little wider and you go, oh, there's these girls and all of the stuff around us. And we told, oh, don't interrupt people and be nice to uncle such and such. And, you know, don't be difficult or challenging or raspy. There's all these different words, and being the good girl is the opposite of being the wild child, and it shows up in our career choices, our relationship patterns. So when I say rewilding, it takes courage, because we could annoy a few people around us, or I've had this a lot from people go, oh man, you changed. And some people fall away out of your life, and there's new ones come in who are more on your, I call it frequency, when you know that they are taking you the way you are. And that in itself is, I think, a bit of a rebellious thing to go, I actually learned to not care what other people say about me or think about me. And 9 times out of 10, what we think they think about us is actually just in our head, hasn't even occurred to them. Mm-hmm. And that comes to body image, it comes to our voice. I used to be terrified speaking in public because I have an accent. I'm from Germany originally, moved to New Zealand 27 years ago. But I came to the point where I go, my message and what I want to do is bigger than myself. So I just have to get over that. Mm-hmm. So I can serve, because whenever I speak about my story, I give another woman permission to actually acknowledge that she's out of alignment and that it's okay, that there are others like her. She's not going crazy. But because we do not really have that community from a compassionate, vulnerable point of view, we don't really speak about it, certainly not at work. And this is often where things can get really bubbled up until something explodes. And our health is often at the forefront of that, what I call catalyst to break out of who we are and what we came here to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. That was a mouthful. So, you know, I love what you said about you give others permission to show up as well, because I think that as a leader, as someone who is in the forefront of this conversation, I think that, and even like with the books that I publish and whatnot, I know that by sharing stories, you give others permission to show up with theirs as well, regardless of where they are in their journey, right? So the vulnerability factor is alive and well in women, and we just don't go there very often. and be vulnerable, especially with ourselves. Like when we question ourselves. Now, you talked about earlier when we were talking, you said that when you take women back, what kind of work exactly is it that you do to be able to bring us back to ourselves? Because that's what I'm hearing you say. When you take women back, I'm thinking about bringing them back to themselves. Tell us a little bit about your process.
The process I use is the Realign process, and it goes through some really deep work because I do rapid transformation therapy. I'm a somatic trauma-informed practitioner, and being in your body, hence the word embodiment coach, teaches you to go into the places where you go, oh yeah, no, I don't really want to know. I know there's something under that trapdoor, but it's much nicer over here when I can skip over it and ignore it. So the stillness forces us to start listening to that. Out of the sudden, we hear the knocking on that trapdoor and I go, deep down, we know that we are part of the problem, but then part and the outcome to the solution. So realign means that you first go and you reflect. I take women by the hand, share what I've gone through, and it's taken me about a decade to get to where I am now. And I don't want women to have to waste a whole decade to go. If I'd known and had somebody show me this way earlier, then I wouldn't have had to endure that pain for the length that I have. So reflecting is important because that's that mirror that I hold up. And there's a lot of deep conversational work to go, tell me about this. And, I get these intuitive hits to go, okay, go back there. You tried to skip over that, but I really felt that from you. Yeah. And then you can go and expose what's lying under the surface. And I call it shadow work. It's going into the places we don't want to face, or stuff we're not that proud of, or we think, I've wasted 20 years, and there's regret. There is often neglect, and it's just more comfortable to stay in that lane where, la, 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 I'm ignoring it. And realigning really needs to go to those the steps, because you can then accept it and make peace with, that's been my journey. And for me, it was, I have one child and I'm very blessed. I have my son, and I've gone through this hardship for a purpose, for a reason. It wasn't in vain, because I can now serve from a place of holding space for other women to fall apart and to guide them through to put themselves back together in a more authentic, rewilded, and aligned way, so they can feel that zest for life again. It's not a pretty process. So I liken it to a chrysalis. When the caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it wraps itself, it disappears, and it dissolves itself pretty much, and it then grows into a butterfly. And by the time the cocoon breaks open, you have wings, and you go, oh, this is not a caterpillar body anymore. And it takes us a while to really grow and stretch them out, let them dry before we go, okay, I'm a butterfly now. So when we realign, we can liberate, we can then nurture, and then we can ground in some of the things we've worked through. So you're stepping out of a box and onto a spiral with this work, because it's never finished. And for me, I catch myself with old patterns pop up in my head, or old stories, and I go, I have the awareness to go, I know what this is. I know why it's coming up, but I can look at it. I can be okay with it, and I can let it go, because that's not me anymore. And then you work your way through, because that's the framework that you now have to have that deep alignment with who you are, why you're doing things, and the courage to carry on with your path in life. And I think the more we do it for others, the more they see, if she can do it, I can. So one of my favorite quotes is, we are just walking each other home. There are women ahead of us, there are women behind us. But imagine you walking up to someone that's that little bit ahead and go, she's waiting around the next corner when things get hard. And she's there to hold us. She's there to walk with us for a while. And I'm not alone in this journey. And it can be grief, it can be divorce, it can be death in the family, it's illness, it can be any number of things. Common ground is that we've lost our path a little bit, and being held and holding space for women in that capacity is really profound and humbling. And I love doing this on a one-on-one basis, because often there's things shared that we don't want other people to hear. So for me, it really makes me complete being able to do this, because what I've lived on my path.
And it's awesome that women trust you in order to be able to open those, as you call them, trapdoors, and figure out what's going on, or what was there that kept them stuck in the patterns that we've been talking about this whole time. Well, I'm fascinated. I'm very fascinated by this. You talked about liberating, nurturing, and grounding. Talk about grounding a bit, because when I think about grounding, I think about taking my shoes off and walking in the grass.
And that is part of it. It's important for us to do that. Grounding means that we become, think of it as putting an anchor down so deep down in your core. Or if you look at the carousel where you've got the horse with the pole right in the middle, it anchors you.
Yes.
And you are so aware and okay and at peace with who you are and what you are and how you show up, that nothing can get you off that center grounding. So you know who you are deep down. And again, the boundaries and the saying no is part of that, to go, I am putting myself first, and I'm not afraid to do that, because I need to be who I am. And I know what happens when I'm getting off that axis. We wobble, we fall off the orbit. And being in a corporate hamster wheel, and I always say that a career ladder can often look like one, but it is actually a hamster wheel. It is you that keeps you in these patterns, and only you can have the capacity to get yourself out of it. No coach, no therapist, no one on the outside can fix you or heal you. You have to be prepared to walk through that fire and into that dark place to be able to see the light. And grounding that in and holding on to that, regardless of what happened in your past, that is powerful. And the courage along that path is something that will never go away from you, because you're grounded. You have that center pole, you've got that anchor, you're rooted in the ground, you're rooted in who you are. And whether there's a tornado or other things, you just withstand that. So now, having written my book and the story for everyone to see and read, I don't feel like I have something to hide. And you can literally stand in any turmoil that might be around us to go, you know what? You throw what you have at me. I can take it, but I can hold it, because I've gone through all of this. I have the framework and also the techniques and what I do on a daily basis to be able to withstand it. And that's a beautiful place to arrive. And I think as we age in particular, it gets amplified a little bit, because there's only so many years we have on this earth. And menopause, with all its ups and downs, it's the stepping into eldership, where we hold space and we are the role models for some of the women who are yet to walk that path. So I think there is a combination of where we arrive when we do these parts of work that are burst in the fire. So the phoenix from the ashes is pretty much what that means.
Yeah, and the fire. I'm also a ceramic artist. I'm a potter, and nice. So when I have often likened the first firing as the purification firing, because all the elements that don't belong in the clay get lost in the fire. So it creates a strong body for you a strong piece for you to be able to have like a canvas, a blank canvas when it comes time to putting the glaze on. And then, going into the fire again, I call that the beautification fire, because now we've got everything that we think we might need, yet there are still things that need to be done in order to be able to seal in the beauty of what this piece is going to look like. And it's the second firing that does that, because it gets together with the chemicals that create the glaze, and it brings out the shine and the beauty of the piece. So I get the fire message. I do get.
I love that, because the kiln becomes the chrysalis,
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I've done martial arts and very much into Japanese culture. They have a concept called wabi-sabi. And when things have cracks or are not so perfect, they actually put gold in the cracks when they finish things, because it's being perfectly imperfect and embracing that, because nature is not linear, it's not straight, it's messy. So there's no such thing as perfection. And when we can drop that, we can see the beauty. Even if something cracks in the kiln, you can still see the beauty of it, because it still has specks of glaze that is like, oh my Lord, look at that beautiful turquoise and how it's come out. And you can accept that things don't always go perfectly, but you're not wobbled by it. So I love that with the fire and the kiln.
Exactly. Thank you. And so perfect timing for our second break. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes with Tina, and we're going to talk more about rewilding. I'm loving this conversation. Thank you so much. And we'll just be back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Do you have an uplifting personal story to share? The Daily Gift Book series began with a daily gift of gratitude and a daily gift of hope, both available on Amazon. We're looking for people like you to share a story in our continuing series. Kindness, peace, inspiration, and generosity are just a few of the upcoming topics in the Daily Gift Book series. Your stories matter, and they make a difference. Visit www.dailygiftbookseries.com to find out more on how to submit your story for one of the upcoming titles.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you practice gratitude? How can you make it a habit? Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's expanding your perception and finding gratitude for every opportunity and every challenge. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for, while making a difference. A grateful heart is infectious. Share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community and watch your blessings blossom.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back with Tina Kailea. And I want to just talk about the Daily Gift Book series for a moment. So Daily Gift of Gratitude was the first in the series. We then went to Daily Gift of Hope. And as the commercial said, these are both on Amazon, but so is the third one, which is the Daily Gift of Kindness. And we are working now on a Daily Gift of Peace. How do you like the way they flow together, huh? Gratitude, hope, kindness, and peace. And so we're looking for stories on for a Daily Gift of Peace. If you have one that you would like to share, for those of you who are listening, go to dailygiftbookseries.com/peace. All the details are there. We would love to be able to publish your story with all the other authors who are coming together on this topic. And if there's ever a time for a conversation on peace, this is the time. So bring yours to the table so we can share with you. Tina, would you like to write a story for a Daily Gift of Peace?
I would love to. I will look at it. Peace for me is an interesting word because it starts on the inside first. And I think what we're currently witnessing without going into details, I think it comes from being deeply disjointed and just in turmoil, and there's no inner peace in those people. And I think women being the nurturers of the world, I would love to see all leaders being female for a change, because we want to make the world a better place. And as much as that is a cliche, we give life. We don't want to destroy it. We want to look at Mother Earth, and anyone who gardens or has animals or all of the above. I think that grounding, when you take your shoes off and you're on the ground, you feel it. And being in your feeling body scares people deeply. And men need the feminine to nurture them, because they only have 2 seasons. And I've had a beautiful podcast that I listened to from Russell Means, who was a Native American and very active in that spiritual place. And he said, men go from diaper to diaper. women have all these different seasons where we blossom from being girls, then we're women, and we're mothers, and then we become the elders. But it comes back to being nurturing of the community. So for me, that is what peace looks like.
Yeah.
Being inclusive with all of who we are.
I think that the work that you're describing that you do actually brings every person who you work with to a place of peace within themselves, because most of the time, as we were discussing, we don't know who we are, and we can't truly be at peace until we do, right? So what are some of the deeper patterns that you see in women that lead to the burnout, and how, just one thing, how can we start shifting them? And then I have one last question before we close in a few minutes. So take your time. We still have a little bit of time, but what are some of the deeper patterns that you see?
I love the question. It's your triggers. Whenever you feel triggered, or you get angry, or you snap, pay attention to those things, because trigger has a negative connotation. But that is actually a marker, a little red flag that goes, oh, pay attention to that, because it's trying to tell you something. And I give you an example. For me, at the height of my career, I went to New York. I went to the Time Warner building, because that was the distributor we were working with. And I flew all the way from New Zealand. And I would have been in my mid-30s. And I walked from Times Square, where my hotel was, down to Union Square and back up. And when I walked into the Time Life building, I thought, wow, I've made it. It was like, who, the little girl that moved to New Zealand and now does this? That was like, wow, now I've made it. But I flew for 16 hours from New Zealand to Los Angeles on the red eye to New York. I was stressed. I was not sleeping. And, you know, you have 5 coffees and then 2 glasses of wine at night to function. And I stood at a crosswalk at Union Square, and I saw this woman, floaty hair, yoga mat, and she was just radiating freedom. And she had a maybe, I don't know, a chai latte or something. And the first thing I saw was like, wow. And then immediately my mind goes, oh yeah, she probably married, which, you know, other people have to go to work and rush from here to here. So years later, I realized that was a trigger, that I actually wanted some of what that woman was radiating and what she stood for. But because I felt so trapped in carrying on with what I was doing, that I didn't think that was ever possible for me. And all these little things, like the happy people, if they make you feel uncomfortable, or you immediately snap into something negative.
Yeah.
If you snap at those closest to you, people you love and who love you, pay attention to that, because that means that something is out of alignment. And if it's work, that's fine. Some women have both, or have it at home. It's difficult. So that's really the biggest red flag that you can have and then you feel really bad, because then you berate yourself for the way you react. You then loathe yourself, and you get even deeper and deeper into this, I don't know what to do, and I'm not myself, and I'm not usually this person. So now I am that woman who can do these things and still run a successful business. And we think it's impossible when we at the coalface, in the hot boiling pot of water. We don't think that there is a way out. And when peeling back the layers to go, let's go back to this wild essence inside. What is truly under all the different layers? And that's the biggest ones. Pay attention to your triggers if any of these things happen. Because, you know, you can rationalize most other things. You know, don't have time for the girls' weekend away, or date night with the husband is like, you're in the office, you give up hobbies, you don't go for a walk anymore. Maybe you've had a dog or have a dog, and that's a dog walker now. So you constantly moving away from doing anything other than being in this place of work and in this box. And you want to get out. Your whole body is screaming, but I want something different. I want to get to the other side. And to function, we tell ourselves, no, you've got this, you've that, you need the income, all the stories. Take some time to breathe. And writing a story or your book, nothing puts you close to what really is on the surface than going down that path. And for me, being in publishing, I thought, oh yeah, it's easy. You write your book, and I know everything about publishing. But boy, was it difficult to write some of those parts when I take other women on what I've gone through. It was uncomfortable. But once you're out, you can see the light again. You can feel yourself again.
Yeah, as you were describing that, I'm like, does she have hidden cameras in my house? Is she seeing the amount of time that I've got in front of the computer doing this work and whatnot? It's like, I guess I'm not. I guess I'm not unusual in terms of entrepreneurial women. I'm going to say entrepreneurial women, and even corporate women. I worked in corporate America for years, doing something that I was an insurance agent, and I'm such a creative, and it was so out of alignment for me that it was painful, and I had to get out of it. And I did. I finally did. And the first thing that I did when I moved out of that and decided to move from New York, I lived in New York, to Pennsylvania, where I am now, the first thing I did was build a studio. So, that's where my heart is. I like playing with clay. What can I tell you? So, and I'll get back to it soon. I've moved into a much smaller place in the last couple of years. But yeah. So for women who are listening right now, and feeling stuck and on the edge of burnout, tell me one thing that she, who is in the midst of what you've just been talking about, can do for herself today to begin her realignment journey, her rewilding journey. I love that word. I'm going to use that word, her rewilding journey. What is just one thing that she can do to, I'm going to say, step out of that box, because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're stuck in a box and the world is going on around you and you're just doing what you don't love for the sake of whatever, as you just said, finances or whatever, and totally abandoning ourselves. So how, I know you said pay attention to the triggers. What else can they do?
Be honest with yourself and come into stillness. Do something that you haven't done before. You feel this hit. Maybe it's a yoga class. For me, it was a beautiful sound journey. It had sound bowls, it had drums. And I walked into that yoga studio and laid down and I started crying and I could not stop crying. And that for me was like, I was so uncomfortable with the fact that I was falling apart. It was like someone had untied the parcel and all that grief of what I had gone through, that I pushed down so far so I didn't have to deal with it, all exploded out of Pandora's box all in one moment. And it was tears that were not just in the present. It was like someone turned a tap on. That for me was so deeply throwing me. And I go, what has happened? I'm normally really in control and I'm used to being put together and holding it together. That was so uncomfortable for me. So if you have anything that you might have thought about, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's a weekend retreat, maybe it's meditation, something that would put you out of your comfort zone, but deep down you feel like, but it's calling me, but it's there. Do it, because whenever you get, it's interrupting a pattern. It puts you in a place of uncomfortableness or being challenged in your current belief system, that out of the sudden there might be a frequency. It's like you tuning the radio and you go and have a lot of static noise, and out of a sudden there is something going, oh, I don't normally listen to country, but there's something in this music, it's hitting me. So when you get emotional doing something that you normally not do, throw out all beliefs out of the window that people think you're crazy. For me, it was going deeply into a spiritual woo-woo kind of world where I was doing things. If someone would have told me that, I would have poo-pooed all of that. They go, yeah, no, that's the people who have a mandala tattoo and go to a festival or something. It wasn't, I didn't allow myself to even let that in. That is exactly what I then did, that thrown me, that actually just interrupted me to a point where I go, whoa, what just happened? And then you can't stop. And that's, again, you're stepping out of your box and you're going onto a spiral, and it becomes wider and higher, and you stop holding on to the old bits and realize that there's a beautiful new being that actually feels much better to yourself. And when I came out of corporate, I quit from one day to the next. I went into free fall. I didn't know who I was anymore, because when someone asks you, so what do you do? Oh, I'm the general manager of XYZ, and you rattle down this and that. But without that, and someone asks you, what do you do? And I went silent and I didn't know. And for me, holding safe space for women in whatever capacity, that's my superpower.
Yeah.
And my mind was telling me, yeah, but that's not a job description. That's my purpose. That is who I am and what I do, and what makes it so powerful in the work that I do. By the time I integrated that and allowed myself not to having to take sides, oh, it's either woo-woo or corporate, everything started to change. And that's that alignment and that groundedness I was talking about. So I challenge you, do something that might seem a little crazy or a little out there or unusual for you, but if it's been lingering and it pops up, just do it, because you might just get thrown off this thing and you got, oh, there's more to me than I thought.
Yeah.
And that's when the beauty, the journey can begin.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Awesome advice. Step out of the box. Step out of the box. It's just, and sometimes in today's age, especially, like, people don't know what to do. They don't know what step to take to better themselves because, judgment and this and that. And just, you said something earlier about competition, about women being in competition with each other. And I remember a Jan Levin Sant, first of all, competition is the death of joy. It steals your joy from you if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. Yes, is that true? And then the other thing is that competition is a violent act against yourself. I went, oh my goodness, but that makes so much sense. Stop paying attention to everybody. Pay attention to yourself. That's what Tina's suggestion, right? Doesn't it make that much sense? It does. That like sat me right.
It does. I've lost you for a moment. I'm not sure whether we are still on air, but collaboration is the new domination. That's something that I use a lot when I am in workspaces in particular, because when I think competition comes from a place of being wounded. And if you go back in history on what happened to women on not feeling safe to speak up, I work a lot with the voice. And as a martial artist with a black belt, being able to bring that from the inside, from your hara, from the body, it travels differently when you speak. And as a speaker, you work a lot with the voice. I think if we ditch the mean girl mentality that lives in all of us, and I am guilty of it as well. I used to be that slightly raspy person that might have been not so nice to others. And same with the way I was leading or being head of a department. I had to relearn and step out of all of that, because we want to have connection. Women are designed to be encircled together, and that's something I do, and I call it the anti-networking, because I ask people to introduce themselves without using what they do for work.
That's so good.
You can see these executive, high-achieving women sit there, and it then goes around clockwise, and you can see them panicking, thinking, what am I going to say? And they're waiting for someone to go. Some of them get really emotional. Some people get silenced because they don't have an answer. Yeah. And we feel, when we show vulnerability, we feel like we're showing incompetence, which comes back to this, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Whether it's education, family, money, the body, it can be any number of things.
Yeah.
Have the courage to be disliked, because you're not everyone's cup of tea.
Amen, sister. And with that, we have run out of time. I could talk to you for weeks. This has been so good. Just to close out, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out to you? And could you show your cover of your book, please, before we go?
I can. This is my book, Corporate Rewilding. It's on Amazon.
Awesome.
If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn, and it's just Tina Kapp-Kailea, or you can find me on Instagram at _fempreneur, and that is FEMME, like the femme fatale. And you can find me on Facebook as well under Tina Kapp-Kailea. Look for the pink jacket. Usually that's a giveaway. Awesome. That's my wild jacket. It's opposite corporate.
Wonderful. Tina, thank you. This has been such an enlightening conversation. I appreciate you so much, and that you're making a difference for other women through this conversation. And for those of you listening out there, just between now and the next time, make sure that whatever conversations you're having are making a difference in the lives of others and in your own life yourself. So see you next time. Thanks again, Tina.
Thank you.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.